must earn no more than $300,000 yearly jointly, $225,000 as head of household, or $150,000 as an individual tax filer. So you'll have to ask yourself if an $80,000 car that needs to be plugged in is worth a $7,500 tax credit. With Fox on Tech, I'm Eben Brown, Fox.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Managing the border crisis. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. As the number of migrants at the southern border continues to rise, President Biden making his first trip there since taking office. He stopped Sunday in El Paso, Texas, where Fox's Mark Meredith reports.
The president saw a migrant assistance center. Humanitarian groups have repeatedly said that they have simply been overwhelmed by the sheer amount of people seeking assistance. The president was even asking them, what do they need? And they said that they simply need more resources, more money, more help.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott met with the president on the tarmac shortly after he landed and gave him a letter which included steps to improve border security. Following his border visit, President Biden arrived in Mexico City, where he will attend a summit for North American leaders. This comes amid increased violence from the Mexican drug cartels. Fox's Jackie Heinrich has more from Mexico City.
Ahead of this meeting, El Chapo's son, Ovidio Guzman, was arrested by Mexican authorities, and now the cartels have effectively declared war on the Mexican government. More than 30 people have been killed in shootouts with the military, even attempting to shoot down military and civilian aircraft to prevent his transfer to a maximum security federal prison, terrorizing Sinaloa to prevent his transfer. This arrest, by the way, has been described by Mexican authorities as a gift to President Biden.
Guzman is being held at a federal prison in Mexico. California Republican Kevin McCarthy winning the House Speaker position after days of negotiations with GOP holdouts. On CBS's Face the Nation, Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina discusses her uncertainty regarding the deals made during the negotiation process.
We don't know at this point, and that does give me pause and gives me significant heartburn on what direction we're going to take.
The House is expected to vote on a rules package Monday. America is listening to Fox News.
All three stations, all three morning shows. Thanks to all the listeners for Pika's Best, Choice Broadcasting has swept the top three. Best radio stations, The Point, Boss 104, and Star 101. Top three radio personalities, Kyle Mandapat, Ray Gibson, and Daryl Lizava. Put the power of Pika's Best to work for you. If you're an advertiser, call 671-888-7346 for information, rates, and packages. And let us get your message out to Pika's Best listeners with Pika's Best Broadcasters. And thanks for listening to Pika's Best.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
Investigators in Virginia say first grader intentionally shot his teacher Friday. Fox's Christina Coleman has more.
Police say the teacher, Abby Zwerner, is now listed in stable condition. Her condition is improving after she suffered life-threatening injuries. The shooting happened at Rich Neck Elementary School Friday afternoon. It's unclear how the 6-year-old boy gained access to a loaded gun or what exactly led up to the shooting. Police say there was an altercation of some kind.
The altercation was between a 6-year-old, the student, who did have the firearm, and the teacher, and then a round was fired. Like I said, she suffered a gunshot wound and has been transported to the hospital. That's where my thoughts and prayers are at right now.
Police say this was not an accidental shooting in Newport News, Virginia. They did not say if they have been in contact with the boy's parents.
The alleged shooter is too young to be sent to the Department of Juvenile Justice if found guilty. Gas prices increased over the last 3 weeks. Here's oil industry analyst Trilby Lundberg, the publisher of the Lundberg Survey, with the details.
Gasoline prices moved up on average in the past 3 weeks. They're up a dime to $3.37 for regular grade. But it wasn't from crude oil. It was from winter extreme weather.
Lundberg says the weather affected refinery output. A popular fast food chain has a warning regarding its app.
Chick-fil-A is asking anyone who uses their mobile app to update their password after some users reported fraudulent activity. The chicken sandwich chain released a statement after customers posted messages to a community Facebook page in the Atlanta area where Chick-fil-A is headquartered. The company says it's investigating to determine the source of the issue and is taking steps to secure affected accounts and enhance its security protocols. Chick-fil-A assured customers that the suspicious activity is not due to a compromise of internal systems.
That's Fox's Richard Jordan. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News.
Is your business ready for digital transformation? The latest Wi-Fi technology is here, and it's Docomo Pacific's WorkPass, powered by Plume. WorkPass unlocks connectivity, productivity, and security tools all in the palm of your hand. Access features like adaptive Wi-Fi, guest and employee networks, evolving AI security, plus so much more. To learn more about WorkPass, visit business.docomopacific.com. Docomo Pacific Business. Work better together.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, today is a Red Shirt Monday, Jose. That must mean that we've got the Hope Cristobal screen test once again, huh? All right. So let's see what nonsense, what we've got for Jemmy and Cotney today. Yeah, it's more of the feel-good pap. Here's a Daily News editorial. And by the way, Jose, did you see a paper over the weekend?
I did not.
And even the e-edition did not come out.
I don't think so. I didn't see
there
it
was
either.
no e-edition.
Wow.
And they told us no more hard copy.
The digital edition printer is not working either.
Well, the online was there, but it was mostly like old stuff. Yeah, they must have really cut back.
Must have been a third holiday weekend.
Something like that. Yeah, maybe the governor gave them the extra days off. Here's their offering for today. The Christmas season is different for us here on Guam. Instead of Uggs boots, we wear Scott's Jory. And instead of layering up with sweaters and puffer jackets, we slip on a T-shirt to fire up the barbecue grill by the back kitchen. But this is what makes our slice of American soil in the Pacific special. We adapt. No snow, no problem. We have sand, sun, and surf. Not to mention the fact that we get trade blizzards and snowstorms for a smattering of heavy rains that, for the most part, don't last long enough to cancel thousands of flights. But beyond these minor adaptations to the winter Christmas we miss on Guam, we miss out on. Guam makes a season special where it truly counts as our community pulls together to bring the Inatfa Malik spirit of the holidays to life. I can't write an editorial without misusing the word Inatfa Malik, can I?
Maybe they're talking about the dinner table.
Maybe. As we gear up for work ahead in 2023, we take one last look back at the holidays of 2022 and thank all those who helped transform the island into Christmas wonderland and a tropical paradise we have all come to cherish. Thousands of families and visitors walked through the lighted arch and snapped countless selfies at the Guam Museum to marvel at the various displays and participate in family-friendly events. And the displays continued throughout the island as businesses and nonprofit organizations kept the holiday theme going from Hagat to Jigo and all throughout our busy visitor district. The lights were endless, and the sense of community this past Christmas season could be seen in the many stories and photos we were fortunate to share with our readers. From the students of Okado High School's junior ROTC program, who donated more than 500 gifts to the Marine Corps Toys for Tots program, despite a break-in on the campus, to the Salvation Army Kettlebell Volunteers and the United Airlines Fantasy Flight Miracle Workers, Guam proves that no matter where we are in the globe, family and community are the true spirit of the season. Sijuos Ma'asi to all the students, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and those who took the time to brighten the holiday season for all of Guam. Boy, I'll tell you, when I read an editorial like this, I just get so fired up I want to go out in the lobby and take a nap.
There's whiteout on the date, though. It looks like this is last year's.
It could be. Yeah. All right, now, as is my custom, because the Post doesn't run editorials anymore, when I find something that appears to have pretty good editorial content, I will read it in on this part of the show. Unfortunately, I think I forgot once again. I forgot to bring it along. I brought a Second Amendment item, which I should have read, but I'll save until tomorrow. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have it. I just was looking in the wrong place. This is a rather long article, but it moves very quickly. It's written by a gentleman named Victor David Hansen, and he's right up there with Jonathan Turley. He's not a lawyer, which is probably one of the reasons he's such a good writer. He's right up there with Jonathan Turley when it comes to writing good columns. And this is what he said. This title of this column is "The Coup We Never Knew." So I read it correctly. C-O-U-P is not pronounced coup. It's pronounced coup.
I don't know. Obama says coop.
Yeah. Yeah, like corpsman in the Navy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Zombies.
Yeah. So the coup we never knew, and much of the column is rhetorical leading questions. Did someone or something seize control of the United States? What happened to the U.S. border? Where did it go? Who erased it? Why and how did 5 million people enter our country illegally? Did Congress secretly repeal our immigration laws? Did President Joe Biden issue an executive order allowing foreign nationals to walk across the border and reside in the United States as they pleased? Since when did money not have to be paid back? Who insisted that the more dollars the federal government printed, the more prosperity would follow? When did America embrace zero interest? Why do we believe $30 trillion in debt is no big deal? When did clean-burning, cheap, and abundant natural gas become the equivalent of dirty coal? How did prized natural gas that had granted America's wishes of energy self-sufficiency, reduced pollution, and inexpensive electricity become almost overnight a pariah fuel whose extraction was a war against nature? Which lawmakers, which laws, and which votes of the people declared natural gas development and pipelines near criminal? Was it not against federal law to swarm the homes of Supreme Court justices, to picket and to intimidate their households in efforts to affect their rulings? How then, with impunity, did bullies surround the homes of Justice Brett Kavanaugh, Samuel Alito, Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, John Roberts, and Clarence Thomas, furious over a court decision on abortion? How could these mobs so easily throng our justices' homes with placards declaring off with their D's? Since when did Americans create a government ministry of truth? And whose orders did the FBI contract, under whose orders did the FBI contract private news organizations to censor stories it did not like and writers whom it feared? How did we wake up one morning to new customs of impeaching a president over a phone call, of the Speaker of the House tearing up the State of the Union address on national television,
That was disgraceful.
of barring congressional members from serving on their assigned congressional committees? When did we assume the FBI had the right to subvert the campaign of a candidate it disliked? Was it legal suddenly for one presidential candidate to hire a foreign ex-spy to subvert the campaign of her rival? Was some state or federal law passed that allowed biological males to compete in federal sports? Did Congress enact such a law? Did the Supreme Court guarantee that biological males could shower in female showers and redefine the very sports they had championed? When did the government pass a law depriving Americans of their freedom during a pandemic? In America, can health officials simply cancel rental contracts or declare loan payment suspension? How could it become illegal for mom and pop stores to sell flowers or shoes during quarantine, but not so for Walmart or Target? Since when did people decide that 70% of the voters would not cast their ballots on Election Day? Was this revolutionary change the subject of national debate, a heated congressional session, or the votes of dozens of state legislatures? What happened to election night returns? Did the fact that Americans created more electronic ballots and computerized tallies make it so much longer to tabulate the votes? When did the nation abruptly decide that theft is not a crime and assault is not a felony? How can thieves walk out with bags of stolen goods without the wrath of angry shoppers, much less fear of the law? Was there ever a national debate about the terrifying flight from Afghanistan? Who planned it and why? What happened to the once trusted FBI? Why almost overnight did its directors decide to mislead Congress, deceive judges with concocted tales from fake dossiers and with doctored writs? Did Congress pass a law that our federal leaders in the FBI or CIA could lie with impunity under oath? Who redefined our military, and with whose consent? Who proclaimed that our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff could call his Chinese communist counterpart to warn him that America's president was supposedly unstable? Was it always true that retired generals routinely labeled their commander-in-chief as a near-Nazi Mussolini an adherent of the tools of Auschwitz? Were Americans ever asked whether the universities could discriminate against their sons and daughters based on their race? How did it become physically dangerous to speak the truth on campus? Whose idea was it to reboot racial segregation and bias as, quote, theme houses, safe spaces, and diversity? How did that happen in America? How did a virus cancel the Constitution? Did the lockdowns rob us of our sanity? Or was it the woke hysteria that ignited our collective madness? We're beginning to wake up from a nightmare of a country we no longer recognize and from a coup we never knew. Man, did he nail it or what, huh?
That's like the proverbial, and I hate using that term, but the frog slowly.
Exactly, yeah. And we watched these things happen one by one. And
it was a slow burn.
Yeah, we kind of let it go, and all of a sudden here we are boiling to death.
It was like my weight gain in the past 2 years. How the heck did this happen? But I knew it was happening.
Yeah.
I just didn't do anything about it.
Exactly. And, you know, introduce the name Donald Trump. And let's take every bad thing that every Democrat has ever said about Donald Trump, and let's assume for the purpose of this discussion that every one of those things is true. I would still take Donald Trump in a heartbeat over the crap that the left has imposed on, and that's where it's all coming from. It's all the left. The wokesters on the left. And of course, if you're a tailgater, you know that the left is composed of two kinds of folks: those that marched to the Antonio Gramsci Frankfurt School drumbeat, and the useful idiots. But they're all going in the same direction. They all want the same thing. We talk about it every day on Tall Tales, and sometimes I think that the fact that people aren't outraged is itself an outrage. I would say it's outrageous, but I don't want to have half of Agate mad at me, Jose. Victor David Hansen nailed it today. Okay, let's take a look at the card. And of course, we start out with systemic racism. We've got public law 3634 violations. Then I've got Aline Yamashita versus Speaker Tetlahi, Fairfax County Schools versus Smart Kids, a biologist versus trannies, the Archdiocese versus the unborn, Ralph Torres versus the CNMI. I don't know that the CNMI has ever had a worse enemy than Ralph Torres, the last governor. Then we've got some old stuff on the card. China versus Guam, Russia versus Ukraine, Scottish versus the rule of law, syndicalism versus capitalism, Ralph Nader versus the New York Times. Okay, so first thing on the card, of course, is the as I have explained before, I comb the classified ad pages of both newspapers to come up with some really interesting things. Now, there is a commission known as, well, actually they call themselves a committee, but it's actually a commission. The War Claims Adjudication Committee is having a meeting on January 11th, and that commission decides which survivors of World War II get how much money. It's a gap filler for those who didn't get around to filing for the first War Claims Awards. And they've got 8 items on their agenda. You get down to item number 6. The committee will adjudicate claims D2, V207, and V221. And then we get into new business, item 7. And A is proposed new meeting date. That's a legitimate discussion. And then B is miscellaneous matters.
That's open mic.
Well, I mean, it just makes me really, really suspicious. Miscellaneous matters. Miscellaneous matters like what? You know, why don't you want to tell us what it is you're going to discuss?
Have you been sending them open government letters, Bob?
I haven't, and I guess I'm going to have to start.
Miscellaneous matters.
Yeah. Because, you know, with this agenda, D2, V207, and V221's awards are actually void. If anybody wants to write a letter and say, you got to do this over, folks, maybe I'll do that just to get their attention. Good idea, Jose. Okay, then we go to systemic racism. And systemic racism is now got legs. I'm going to show you a jungle watch that ran over the weekend.
Sounds familiar.
Uh-huh.
Looks familiar, too.
And this is Tim Rohr's Jungle Watch, junglewatch.info. If you don't go there every day, you're really missing out. It's an extremely good column, very well written, comments on important local issues in a way that's easily understood and very easy to act upon. If you doubt what I said, if you could ever find Archbishop Athperon's address, write him a letter and ask him. Okay, so here's the Jungle Watch. Attorney Williams insists the rice is red. That figures. This is the same Attorney Williams who said it's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives. Miss Indecisive. Okay, here's the column. Civil Beat, a Honolulu-based publication, has posted a mostly well-written article about the abortion debate in Guam. The article quotes pro-abortion attorney Vanessa Williams as saying, quote, I'm Chamorro. I'm indigenous. I'm from Guam, born and raised here. I'm a Catholic. I was baptized and raised in this community. You got to wonder then how she went so far wrong. She goes on to say, or the article goes on to say, she disagrees with the idea that the church's stand on abortion should affect access to the procedure on Guam, so much so that she currently serves as local counsel for the ACLU lawsuit that enabled the abortion pills by post, by mail. That Williams and others like her continue to take aim at the, quote, church, that is the Catholic Church, as a significant opponent, indeed, sometimes the only opponent, is a classic example of what radio talk show host Bob Klitzkie often refers to as systemic racism, a play on words that began when someone wrote a letter to a local paper pointing out that what we call red rice is actually orange. And the paper responded with the equivalent of, shut up. The dust-up over the actual color of red rice led Klitzkie to use it as the ongoing metaphor for truth versus narrative. That pro-aborts continue to hang on to the narrative that the rice is red, that is, that the Catholic Church is the bad boy in the battle over abortion, is telling. And it's telling because it's not true. In fact, as demonstrated several times on this block, the Catholic Church at the highest level has been in bed with pro-aborts for decades, which is why the most prominent pro-aborts in our government, from Biden all the way down to Governor Lou LG, are stridently, publicly, and sometimes viciously pro-abortion. That Williams and others continue to bang on their rice is red drum is telling, because it tells us they have no argument to support the direct killing of helpless, innocent, defenseless, tiny human beings and can only continue to divert attention away from their bloody business by pitting the public against the, quote, mean old church. A straw man argument if there ever was one. In fact, William should be sending a thank you letter to Pope Francis and crediting the church he so vilifies as an important ally because Francis' recent amendment to canon law, which will be addressed in a future post, and we'll get to it. The fact is, this is a fact. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, and then I have the Hofschneider column that Tim cites in his post. Anita Hofschneider, if that name sounds familiar. Hofschneider, not tomorrow night, the Hofschneider, die Alemann, tomorrow, you know. And I've told the story about why we have Hofschneiders on Tinian. I'll tell it again sometime. But Anita Hofschneider is a Tinian, and she's the one that covered the whole Aberon fall from grace for that newspaper in Hawaii, and she did a really, really good job on it. She's a good journalist. But she kind of missed the beat here on this column that she wrote about the church. And like Tim says, she makes the church out to be the bad boy. And Tim goes on to say, from what Hofschneider reported, the only thing that ties Pat Perry's statement, let me go back a second here. Reporter Hofschneider titles a subsection of her article, Faith Underpins Support for Ban. She writes, the fact that abortions may become much harder to obtain is good news to Pat Perry, a Guam resident who is a member of the Catholic Pro-Life Committee. Quote, you can't say that killing an innocent human being is ever right, she said. I truly believe that Senator Ariola's bill from 1990 was perfect. Perry's conviction comes from the strength of her faith, a common perspective on Guam where an estimated 90% of residents are Catholic, and the church is often intertwined with indigenous Chamorro culture. Back in 1990, Guam's former Archbishop Anthony threatened to excommunicate senators who opposed the abortion ban. From what Hofschneider reported, the only thing that ties Perry's statement to Catholicism is that she's a member of the Catholic Pro-Life Committee. But Perry reportedly says nothing about her Catholic faith. Perry simply states, you can't say that killing an innocent human being is ever right. That's not a religious belief. Our secular laws say the same thing. And I've said the same thing here on the show more than once. And generally talking about abortion, I said, you know, if you're a Catholic, it's really easy. But I don't even need to go to the Catholic faith for me to answer it. Just my sense of humanity, the fact that I'm a human being, that I have a conscience, that I have a little sense of empathy. I don't need to open a catechism or a Bible. Just those things tell me it's always wrong to take the life of a helpless, innocent human. Period.
Simple logic, Bob. People are against murder. Pat Perry is against murder. Pat Perry is Catholic. People who are against murder are Catholic. It's a fallacy.
It's the undistributed middle term.
And that's exactly what this article just said.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how dense this sentence was that they put in there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like this one, Jose. A blonde is a little pale. A bucket is a little pale. Therefore, a blonde is a bucket.
Write that down. I'm going to use it in my next anti-life article.
Yeah, so a pretty good jungle wash, as usual. You can't go wrong. by reading Jungle Watch, that's for sure. So moving on from systemic racism, we apparently have a little journalistic skirt tearing here between Yamashita and Speaker Aline Yamashita and Speaker Tlahi. Let's take a break and we'll come back to Yamashita versus Tlahi.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup.
Including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
And now back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Yeah, so this is a column that ran in today's Daily News. I put it on the card as Yamashita versus Speaker Tlahi. The title of the column is Yamashita, Agree to Disagree, Work Together with Respect. Yeah. Now, tailgaters know that I don't tolerate this agree to disagree BS, you know, because as I mentioned when we do the when I read the rules of engagement on Tall Tales thrives on disagreement. And disagreement is an absolutely necessary function of any group that wants to build something that looks like unity. The surest way to ruin group dynamics is to stifle disagreement when it comes up, because people have to get it off their chests, and skillful organizers will make sure that if there are two sides to an argument, that all of the arguers understand the argument from the opposite side, maybe don't disagree with it, but at least disagree with it. And if you hear this whole, well, we'll just have to agree to disagree on that, that puts the process to an end, and it doesn't go anywhere. Now, I'm going to point out something here before I get into the meat of this column. You know, it sounds so good to say, you know, it's all politics. You know, they should forget politics and just work for the good of the people. Well, the problem is that most of the time we can't decide what we think is good for the people or good for the island. A classic example would be Jungle Watch. Half this island thinks we ought to have, a woman ought to have absolute freedom to take the life of helpless, innocent humans inside their bodies. The other half of the island says you should never be able to do that. So how do we reconcile that? Well, we just agree to disagree. We never resolve it. But we say we've got to work together for the good of the island. That's why we have legislatures. That's why we have multi-member legislatures. If it were that easy, we wouldn't need 15. We could do it with just one. Yeah, one person.
Just vote Yamashita and just everything happened the way she wants.
Yeah. Or it doesn't matter who, it just could be one person. Then we won't have any disagreement. Right?
Yeah, but according to your article, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Now, I haven't been able to nail this down, but I read somewhere that in ancient Greece, the title politician was an honorable title. Because if you have a democratic form of government, obviously you're going to have a lot of differences amongst the people in that government. And someone has to come along and try to find things that can be agreed upon by the different members of that political body. And that's the job of the politician. That's what politicians do. They do it by advancing their own ideas, by discussing their ideas with people who disagree with them, and it works. It's a messy process, and as Winston Churchill said about democracy, it's the worst. It's the worst form of government of all, except for any other kind. So here's Leigh Yamashida's column. In more than one way, quote, malfunction has arrived at our Guam legislature. The inaugural proceedings reflected discord. I forgot to wear my pearls today, Jose. Doggone it. Maybe if I can just clutch at my crucifix, and would that work?
Am I the only one hearing Kumbaya in the background?
Yeah. It reflected discord. During the inauguration, a speaker should have been chosen. Joe San Augustine, Frank Bloss, and Speaker Terlahi were nominated. None received the needed 8 votes. When Chief Justice Carbolito recognized Will Parkinson for a nomination, and Senator Chris Barnett took the microphone, I just stared. I had to turn my TV set off. I had to go out and go for a walk. I was just so flabbergasted and so let down by that. And of course, Barnett grabbed his own microphone.
Right?
Yeah, he didn't grab the microphone away from San Augustine. From who nominated Joe San Augustine? Parkinson. Yeah, he didn't. It wasn't one of those just grabbing the mic. He just grabbed his. And I can completely understand that. I've done the same thing myself in meetings where there are multiple microphones, and I'm anxious to get my point across. I grab the mic. Oh, I'm sorry. You're first. Just,
this whole take is just incredible.
It is. So, first of all, they couldn't agree on a speaker, and then we're told that Barnett grabbed the microphone, and then we're told that and she characterized that as another gavel grab. Not even close.
Hardly.
Not even close. If you remember the day that Ray Tenorio, amongst his other trophies, garnered the title of best gavel wrestler on Guam when he was able to wrestle the gavel away from Judy Wampat. But this was nothing compared to that. Another gavel grab. Oh my. Senator Barnett thought he was recognized. Well, he did. His adrenaline must have gotten ahead of him. Senator Parkinson did not overreact. Well, there's nothing to overreact about.
He sat there.
Yeah, even if Barnett had gone, even if the Chief Justice had allowed Barnett to speak, so what? It wasn't like there's one speaker and that's it, and we're going to unplug the microphones. And then we've got to blow a little smoke here for the Chief Justice. Chief Justice handled it like a leader of rules. What else could he do?
That's what he was told to do. Call on a person, call on the next person to raise their hand, and call on the next person to raise their hand. He did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Nothing different from the situation at hand.
No. And then she goes on to say, I was dismayed when Senator Paris' motion to recess carried. After all, it only got 8 votes. Why should it carry? They should have remained in session and determined leadership. So what? They say, okay, they vote down the motion to recess. The only item on the agenda is a selection of the speaker. So the motion to recess is voted down, and then the Chief Justice says, we'll now open the floor for nominations. And this time around, no one is stunned because Burnett doesn't grab the microphone away from Parkinson. So Parkinson, Blas, and Barnett make the same nominations. And the Chief Justice calls for the vote. And guess what? The results come out the same. So they shouldn't have recessed. So then after that happens, what does the Chief Justice do? He does the same thing. How long do we keep going through this? They should have remained in session to determine leadership. They met previously in caucus, which resulted in Monday's outcome. Now, she doesn't identify the they, but, you know, the they has to be the Democrats. You can't hang this on the Republicans. And then going on, reverting to closed doors is contrary to the campaign pledges for transparency and accountability. Guam set the tone for the speaker saga.
Apparently she doesn't watch national news.
No. As of this writing, the House of Representatives is struggling with speakership too.
Oh, so it's not unique.
No. This work is not a cakewalk. In some respects, it's the most important thing that the legislature will do in this whole 2-year term.
And it should be this hard.
It should be.
And challenging.
Yeah, and I would feel a lot worse if every time we elected the speaker, it'd be a unanimous vote.
Can I just interject something really quick here?
Certainly.
This has to do with the national election of the speaker. I, too, was kind of frustrated what was going on. But because of the process and the delays and the people that were not voting for McCarthy, I found out that Pelosi had given herself so much power as a speaker, they were asking to track that back. Not necessarily because they didn't like Kevin McCarthy, even though there's lots of things not to like about him.
Yeah.
It's because they were bringing the speakership back to what it was supposed to be. And if it wasn't for that, I would not have learned that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't want it to be a cakewalk. I don't want us to just gloss over everything and have everything happen because it's supposed to be this way. I want to see that fight, and I want to know the reason why. And the reason why is sound, especially what happened here on Guam.
But Jose, they could have chosen a speaker on the first, Congress could have chosen a speaker on the first ballot if they had just agreed to disagree. Why can't they do that? But that's a really good point. And Pelosi, who, you know, like her or not, you got to give her credit. She understands power, and she knows how to wield power. And she set herself up not as a speaker, but the dictator of the legislature.
And she was able to mute the media when it came to that power grab.
Exactly. Okay. We go on to the next paragraph here. The thoughts of the incredible efforts by our honorable leaders who fought, walked out, and insisted that Guam have a participatory democracy come to mind. They walked out. The thoughts of the veterans and families who sacrificed so that our rights and responsibilities are respected and revered gave me pause. Thoughts of the soldiers and families who fight for democracy came to heart. You know, it's kind of like, I wonder what she saw on her way to Palos. I know what she's saying. You know, the guys back in 1949 fought hard to have a legend, and now you guys want to act like this.
That's the McDonald's drive-through line.
Yeah. And she goes on to say, decorum, diplomacy, Nothing came free. The Guam legislature must ensure that decorum and diplomacy echo through the hard-fought-for halls. That means exact standards of diplomacy must be practiced, including attire. Now, was someone improperly dressed for the inaugural session, Jose? I don't know. I was wearing my really sharp blue blazer and gray trousers. I think I look really, but nobody pointed a camera to me, so were any of the senators not properly? I didn't notice that.
Well, apparently she's not for indigenous Chamorros because they didn't have any attire.
At all, yeah. Okay. Of course, the Republican senators went into action. They've been waiting for conversation. When their counterparts are not ready to move forward, they will. That's what leadership does, okay? And that's exactly what the Republicans did. More accurately, the Republicans prevailed. They are now the majority. It's amazing that the Democrat majority does not honor the votes within their caucus, particularly for the speakership. Who said they didn't honor the votes?
Yeah. She didn't. I'm confused right now because we all know what the vote outcome was that gave Terlahi the leadership.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't the Democrat majority not honoring votes.
No. And if you want to engage in behavior modification, you could take this tack. If I had been in there, even if I had favored Joe San Augustine, this is what I'd have said, folks. I'd have said, I really want Joe. I think Joe would make a great speaker. No disrespect to Therese, she's okay too. And Joe obviously has more votes for speaker. Joe's got 6 and Therese has only got 3. But if we can't settle this here, you know exactly what's going to happen. When it comes time to vote, the 6 Republicans will vote with our 3 Democrats, and we're going to lose a lot of ground. We're going to look like idiots in front of the people. So even though I really want Joe to be speaker, I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to win one for the Gipper. And I'm going to support Therese Terlahi. It's all about unity, sacrifice, and perhaps a little anaphemolic. You could certainly make that argument if that's where you're coming from. More accurately, the Republicans prevailed. They're now the majority. It's amazing that the Democrat majority does not honor the votes within their caucus, particularly for speakership. We do not expect members of the majority to report every bill in a similar vein, but for speakership, we expect the majority to honor the majority will of their caucus. Tai mamatlo. Ko antungo I palabra tai mamatlo, Jose? Aye.
At least she didn't say anaphemolic.
Yeah. Tai mamatlo, without shame. Terlahi, Barnett, and Parrish should identify as independents because they didn't go along with the rest. They should learn from the Republicans who stand firm for their caucus. During the 31st legislature, Senator Blas served as minority leader, and I served as assistant minority leader. We were able to work well with Speaker Judy Wampet 10, Majority Leader Respicio, and most members. There was little drama. Of course, there were disagreements, but we focused, followed rules, and aimed for what was best for the people. Collaborative leadership from all sides was exemplary. Let's give her a round of round of applause. Jose, a hand, yeah. Then she goes on to say, while the legislature should not be an Guadalupe satellite center, which it would be if it weren't for those three, it would be foolish not to work as allies.
Tell that to Guadalupe.
Mm-hmm. Especially during our community recovery, when it comes to, really being upfront about all of the money that came in from the feds. Guadalupe was just, right out, they gave everybody a pocket calculator.
Makes me wonder, is Yamashita looking out, wanting to be in, or isn't in writing this?
Maybe. Well, the legislature should not be an Guadalupe satellite center. It would be foolish not to work as allies. Especially during our community recovery, we need signals of security and stability. Yes, agree to disagree, but work together with respect. Now, here's the reason. This last sentence is why I titled it Yamashita versus Terlahi. Here's the last sentence, or the last two sentences. Now we have a better idea of their motivation. Their meaning especially Therese, but the other two, of their motivation. Our memory bank for the next election has deepened. I'm not voting for those three next time around. I don't know why she'd be voting for him anyhow if she's a Republican.
I like how Yamashita just threw those three into the briar patch.
Exactly. Exactly. She was aiming for the bus, but she hit the briar patch instead. Okay, short break here, and coming back from the break, I have none other than Frank. Wants to talk about I guess this caller's going to be Frank, huh? Yeah.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
Happy holidays, Guam. From now through January 13th, the Guam Visitors Bureau is giving you a chance to win $150 in cash just by sharing your Christmas spirit. Each week, GVB will announce the theme of the week, so take your best photo or video and upload to visitguam.com/Instaguam to enter for a chance to win $150 in cash. Winners will be announced every Friday. Brought to you by GVB, making Guam a better place to celebrate the season of giving.
Okay, so we got a caller here on line one that wants to talk about the choice of the speakership. So, caller, you may be Frank.
Hey, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Magay tayo mamalo ano siya, no?
Senior, huh?
Lolana, I was just thinking, next time the Democrats, when they're going to pick who's going to run, maybe they should have a karaoke contest.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to do it.
And maybe Will Parkinson might win. Got the biggest mouth down there.
Yeah, but Barnett wouldn't let him have the microphone, so you can't get the microphone, you can't karaoke, right?
Hey, you snooze, you lose. Wasn't fast enough.
That's it.
Wasn't fast enough to grab that mic. Maybe you should try a little bit of cardio. Maybe you could grab the mic faster next time.
Well, just a little more karaoke, so he's quicker on the draw to grab that mic.
Yeah. Hey, you snooze, you lose. He was slow to grab the mic, and to me, I rather this coalition. Because we need contrast there. We need to argue. We don't need minions, because if Will wants to be a minion, then we don't need a legislature. Why are we going to agree with everything the administration is going to do? Then Will shouldn't have been over Iran. Maybe we should just eliminate the legislature.
Well, we'd save a lot of money if we did that, and things would move a lot faster, wouldn't they?
Yes, it would. And, he needs to think before he speaks, because if he's saying that, he wants to just rush through whatever the administration wants, then the legislature got no, they got no business, if that's the case.
Yeah. Okay, I got a break for halftime,
right,
Frank.
Okay, Bob, thank you.
Thanks for being frank.
All right.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Not nearly enough. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. That's what Texas Governor Greg Abbott said regarding President Biden's Sunday trip to the southern border, his first since taking office. The president visiting El Paso, Texas, to evaluate the impact of the border crisis.
He's 2 years and about $20 billion too late. He needs to step up and take swift action, including reimbursing the state of Texas for the money that we spent, but providing more resources for the federal government.
That's Texas Governor Greg Abbott speaking on the tarmac. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says the number of illegal crossings has been on the decline.
The number of people attempting to cross the border unlawfully in El Paso is now down by over 70%, and that has been since mid-December.
President Biden last week announced an outline of measures to increase border protection. He is now in Mexico City to attend a two-day summit of North American leaders. Authorities in Brazil back in control of government buildings in the capital city of Brasilia, several hours after supporters of Brazil's former president, Jair Bolsonaro, stormed them. Fox's Trey Yingst has the details.
Brazilian police say the situation is now under control after extensive clashes. Multiple people were led away in zip ties, and Brazilian media reports 150 were arrested. Brazil's current president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, calling these people fanatics, adding they'll be punished with the full force of the law. President da Silva was sworn in just last week after narrowly beating Bolsonaro in an October runoff. Following the results, there were protests in Brazil, but nothing like what unfolded today.
Around 300 arrests were made. Bolsonaro denies encouraging the protesters. Thunderstorms, snow, and powerful winds hitting Northern California Sunday. America is listening to Fox News.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
Thousands of New York City nurses planning to go on strike early Monday morning over disagreements regarding pay and staffing. Fox 5 New York's Ashley Rodriguez reporting.
More than 7,000 nurses at Montefiore and Mount Sinai hospitals are threatening to go on strike by 6 a.m. Monday, and hospital administrators are prepared with contingency plans in place. The New York State Nurses Association says they want better pay. On the Upper East Side, Mount Sinai offered its nurses a 19% wage over the next 3 years, or what would be an additional $51,000 in cash compensation for each nurse and $19,500 in medical payment benefits. In the Bronx, Montefiore Hospital offered 18% more, a package accepted at 6 other New York City hospitals, but the union says it's not good enough.
One of the actors from the TV show 8 is Enough has died. Fox's Ted Linder with more.
A representative for child star Adam Rich confirming Sunday that Rich had died at his L.A. area home. The cause of death yet to be revealed.
Rich played Nicholas Bradford, the youngest son on the popular ABC TV series 8 is Enough, which ran from 1977 through 1981. A law enforcement source said no foul play was suspected. Rich made VH1's list of the greatest 100 kid stars, coming in at number 73. And he battled substance abuse and legal issues throughout his adult life. Adam Rich was 54 years old.
The Philadelphia Eagles capturing the #1 spot in the NFC playoffs and NFC division with their 22-16 victory over the New York Giants Sunday. Here's Eagles running back Boston Scott with an 8-yard rushing touchdown in the first quarter.
Boston Scott in, the blast, Scott won't go down. Touchdown, Philadelphia.
Sound courtesy of CBS. The Detroit Lions beating the Green Bay Packers 22-16 Sunday night. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
Happy holidays, Guam. From now through January 13th, the Guam Visitors Bureau is giving you a chance to win $150 in cash just by sharing your Christmas spirit. Each week, GVB will announce the theme of the week, so take your best photo or video and upload to visitguam.com/Instaguam to enter for a chance to win $150 in cash. Winners will be announced every Friday. Brought to you by GVB, making Guam a better place to celebrate the season of giving.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning shows.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
So here we are, another big halftime show, and you just saw the Rogues, the Tailgaters Rogues Gallery. And as we always do, Jose will tell you how you too could see your face in the Tall Tales Rogues Gallery.
All you have to do is point your browser to thepoint.gu, the official website of this radio station. Click on the link of the T-shirt sporting the beard, or the beard sporting the T-shirt. It'll bring you to the purveyor. Order your shirt. When it comes, place that shirt on, take a selfie, and send that selfie to the Points WhatsApp at 671-797-8255, and you will be included in the Rogues Gallery routine.
Yeah, and I can't think of a better way, to make yourself happy, to give yourself a really nice present than to be on that Tall Tales Rogues Gallery.
My life has been enhanced.
Certainly. Well, you're the beard, in addition. Remember, at one time, we had a lot of people say, well, you told us how to get the T-shirt. How do we get the beard? Remember that?
It just grew on me.
Yeah. And that was the advice you gave me when I said, oh, I'd like to have one of those. And he said, well, just don't shave for a few days and it'll grow on you. But I was never able to catch up with you, Jose. You are the beard champion at Tall Tales. Okay, next on the card is what I refer to jokingly is Hope Cristobal's screen test. You'll see Hope Cristobal on camera and about his despicable display of bad temper, racism, insociability, lack of tolerance. As extensive as my vocabulary is, I can't find enough words to describe how bad it was. But the old saying is, one picture is worth 1,000 words, so you'll get a chance to look at it. But let me tell you what this is about here, why I put this up here. I have a copy of Pacific Island Times for May of this year, and there's a column in there titled Hope Cristobal, First and Foremost a Nurturer. And it starts like this. It's a quote from Hope. It's not about me. It can't be just about me. Nobel Prize nominee Hope Cristobal said, dedicating her nomination to her home island. Now, she was nominated by Lisa Natividad, a fellow separatist at the university, sent Hope's name into the Nobel Prize Committee in Sweden. The fact that you get nominated means really that someone sent your name in. It happens. And then Cristobal goes on to say, this nomination really highlights Guam and our people. The former senator is in the company of Pope Francis, Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, that's for sure.
How dare you?
And British environmentalist David Attenborough, among others. And then another quote from Hope, you can't forge peace as an individual. Peace must be forged by many. The formula has to come out, Cristobal said. You can be at peace with yourself, but what does that mean? That means little, if anything. Cristobal inspires and is inspired by indigenous women in the Pacific region. To me, the nomination is a product of all this activity, this energy that women have. I don't claim it alone. It's a product of the energy of indigenous Pacific women. I just happened to be there at these occurrences, at these events. Truer words were never spoken. And said the former senator, who is the representative of the Guam Coalition for Peace and Justice, which advocates Chamorro rights at the United Nations. Cristobal, who served as a senator from 95 to 97, was the sponsor of local statutes that created the Commission on Decolonization and established the Chamorro Registry. Cristobal earned a bachelor's degree in secondary education and a master's in education at the University of Guam, where she used to teach history. She completed doctoral courses at the University of Eugene in Oregon. I've never heard of that one, have you? The University of Eugene?
No, I don't think
I've been to Eugene, Oregon, and I've been on the campus of the University of Oregon, which is located in Eugene. But somehow I missed the University of Eugene. Wonder how that happened. She is the chair of the Chamorro Language Commission and the director of the Guam Museum. While she has had many titles through the years, Cristobal sees herself first and foremost as a nurturer. Certainly has that bedside manner, doesn't she? In 2019, Cristobal coordinated the Chinema Nina Maulik en respeto para el derecho en Talto, a conference that focused on the building of self-sustaining Pacific beyond the military economy, of course. The conference had Pohnpei women, we had Okinawa women, women from the Philippines. The whole energy level of the indigenous women have is amazing. These women are mindful of life as it is, how life can be better. Because we are nurturers, we are defined by nature, We are defined by nature nurturers. Okay, well, let's watch the nurturer in action for a little while.
Colonizer! You're nothing but a white colonizer. That's who you are. Colonization is the same thing as slow murder. You're a murderer. That's who you are. Get off my island!
Sir, you need to go. You can't be policing people here and telling people how to protest or what to protest for. You need to go. You need to go. I'm against this. That's cool, but you cannot be policing people and telling them how to protest and what to advocate for. She has a right to yell.
I'm an indigenous tomorrow. I have more rights here than you are. You came here because of the structures of colonialism, asshole. Tayo mamalaw, how sige Jordan Tano, di taw-taw-tano, how waho bini taw-taw-tano, waho bini magahoga, waho rason na tayo bini, hago taza rason mo bini. Mo salonila. You need to leave.
You need to go.
Please.
You need to get out of here.
Please, sponsor.
Get out of here. When I get a chance, go.
Thank you. Thank you, partner. Please. No, you can't let them go.
What happened to him?
Well, he confronted me.
What did he
He's
say?
telling me I shouldn't be here. I support Black Lives Matter. It's part of the colonialistic systemic racism. And I came here to support these people. He's a white man that has come here. And he continues the legacy of colonialism. He continues to fight people, individuals, my goodness. I'm a former senator. I authored the Commission on Decolonization.
We are proud of you, Auntie.
Yeah, no, I don't think that Aline Yamashita was there. Because, couldn't they have just agreed to disagree? And where was the decorum there?
I was looking for the attire.
Yeah, well, she...
Was it proper?
In addition to everything else, she wasn't dressed very snappily either, was she? Right? But she was a good example of the values that we all hold dear. We spend a fair amount of time on the show talking about freedom of speech. She's all for freedom of speech, right? So long as she gets to do the hollering and nobody else says anything. And then, of course, you had the peanut gallery behind her. You need to leave. You need to leave. They wanted to silence a guy who wasn't even talking.
I wasn't sure if they were protesters or anti-protesters.
Hollering at her or him?
At him.
Yeah. So, okay, now, longtime tailgaters know what this is about, but if you haven't seen this before, I'm going to read from this story in the Pacific Island Times that explains exactly what happened, because just watching it, you might not really understand. And this is what it says. As an activist, Cristobal is not afraid of confrontation. At the Black Lives Matter rally in Hagatna last year, there were counter-protesters harassing me, she said. So did you see those counter-protesters? I wasn't afraid. It didn't back down. There are always people out there who will challenge you. These are just part of the journey. It can be hard because I'm an educator. I went to the BLM rally because I want to show my support for oppressed people. I follow the news. I'm aware that innocent people are getting killed just because of their skin color. Yeah, she just doesn't go into this unless you're Paul Zerzan. He's a white man. He's a white man. Is there anything else you need to know here?
That's all.
He's a white man, period, full stop. And then she goes on to say, we need to see each other beyond the color of our skin.
You're nothing but a white colonizer.
Exactly. I have more rights than you. I'm an indigenous Chamorro. I have more rights here than you do. So, it's just amazing how one piece of paper and one video tells you more than anything you ever wanted to know about Hope Cristobal.
I heard the rejection letter just said, we watch Tall Tales.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. We have examined your application, or the application submitted to Lisa, the nomination submitted by Lisa Natividad. We are denying you access to the Nobel Prize. Your pal, Oldie Swenson, tailgater. Yeah, it just, we play it every week, and every time I watch it, it's like the first time. It's just, even though you watch it, it's really hard to believe that anyone can act like that in front of probably a couple hundred people, and then the kid comes, "Oh, we're proud of you, Auntie," You really went off on that poor guy who was just standing there. The most violent thing he did was take the cap off his water bottle. It wasn't. How dare you! It wasn't a safe place. He took the cap off his water bottle. All right, next item on the card is Fairfax County Schools versus Smart Kids. Now, once upon a time, back in the day when I went to school, and this has been a long time ago, teachers were looking for smart kids. They wanted to help all kids get smarter. And if they found smart kids, they wanted to give smart kids stuff that would take advantage of their brain power. Smart kids were kind of neat, kind of the product that we were hoping the schools would turn out. We'd like to see schools turn out lots of smart kids. It wasn't something that any of the schools that I ever went to felt they had to apologize for. Well, Fairfax County Schools in Virginia. Now, I had a column here about Thomas Jefferson High School recently. Thomas Jefferson High School is part of the Fairfax County school system. And talk about woke. Here it goes. Fairfax County Public Schools in Virginia shelled out $455,000 to controversial equal incomes firm Performance Fact. Almost $500,000 to find out how can we get equal outcomes. The organization, based in Oakland, California, is not shy about its radical beliefs for achieving high-quality educational results. Students who are taught properly will achieve equally high marks, guaranteeing that quality instruction will produce the same grades across the board. Well, remember, to each according to his needs, from each according to his abilities. Never mind that students enter the classroom with wildly varying intelligence, motivation, and work habits. And ignore that no two pupils are the same, which is a testimony to our natural diversity. Even in a little BS town like Elkhorn, Wisconsin, where everybody was white, half the kids were farmers, half the kids were city kids. The kids that I went to high school with, everyone was completely different from every other one. They're all individual people, which is something we got to stamp out. We can't have that, right? They should all be the same. In a slide obtained by journalist Asra Nomani, Performance Facts belief system is clear. Quote, equal access to resources and opportunities that guarantee fair, just, and affirming experiences and produce equal outcomes for every student without exception. Equal outcomes. Yeah. Yeah. One of my friends in high school was a guy named Johnny Martin. Johnny Martin was about 5'3". By the time I got to be a senior in high school, I was 6'4". Johnny Martin, for, all things considered, wasn't a bad basketball player. But the basketball coach, and he actually was on the team, was third string, but the coach never put him in at center. I wonder why. I guess they just didn't understand back in those days, right?
The kitchen I worked in, my mentor chef, awesome chef, he would give all of us underneath him the same exact recipe. We would do exactly the same thing on the recipe. The results were never the same. They weren't so divergent off, but they were never the same. And that's the same thing about equal access. Mm-hmm. That's not what it's about.
No.
It's about the kid.
And what the kid does with that
Exactly.
access. Yeah, yeah. And the surest way to make sure that a kid is not going to do anything with the access is tell him that he's going to get the same grade as everybody else.
Why do anything?
Why bother? Okay. So equal access to resources and opportunities that guarantee fair, just, and affirming experiences and produce equal outcomes for every student without exception. Equal outcomes. Karl Marx must be spinning in his grave over this outlandish idea taking root in American education. Now, this is the same school system, allegedly one of the top in the nation, that is accused of withholding national merit awards from the top students. This was done, parents allege, to raise the equity at Thomas Jefferson High School. Remember that? Yeah, it was just a couple days ago. So they held on to these certificates of merit until after the deadline for applying to the top schools, which was October 15, and then they sent them out because they didn't want to make the other kids feel bad. Scholars who earned national merit commended students and semifinalist awards were not notified of their achievements. This was reportedly done to spare the feelings of those who fell short of the honor. The awards were kept quiet at a critical time when students were applying to colleges and competing for admissions and scholarship offers. Shauna Yashar, a TJHS at Thomas Jefferson High School parent, who is also an attorney, discovered her son received the honor 2 weeks after early application deadlines passed for several colleges. The Fairfax Times reported startling details of an email exchange between Yashar, Thomas Jefferson principal Anna Bonitatibus, and the director of student services, Brandon Coxaga. In one of the messages, Yashar related a phone conversation between her and Kosatka. In it, he allegedly confessed that the school purposely hid the awards from deserving students because he and Bonatibus chose not to, quote, hurt the feelings of the students who did not receive them. The outlet reported that Kosatka said they want to recognize students for who they are as individuals, not focus on their achievements. If there is a roadmap to the educational bottom, Fairfax County schools are following it. The only way to guarantee equal outcomes is to either make them all equally terrible or grant top marks to everyone despite their actual achievements. Both should be avoided at all costs. It goes right back to Victor Davis Hanson. I mean, this is not a white elephant or a white swan, something that almost never occurs. It happens all the time.
There is a silver lining, Bob.
Yeah.
They were so busy on this equity thing, they forgot to protest and change the name of the school.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson. My God, how could they possibly have a school?
I can't believe we missed that.
Yeah, he was a slaver. Yeah. Okay, next we've got... okay, next we're going to go to Churchill Downs.
Wrigley Field.
I'm sorry, Wrigley Field. Not time for Churchill Downs yet.
All three stations, all three morning shows. Thanks to all the listeners for Pika's Best, Choice Broadcasting has swept the top three best radio stations. The Point, Boss 104, and Star 101. Top three radio personalities, Kyle Mandapat, Ray Gibson, and Daryl Lizava. Put the power of Pika's Best to work for you. If you're an advertiser, call 671-888-7346 for information, rates, and packages. And let us get your message out to Pika's Best listeners with Pika's Best broadcasters. And thanks for listening to Pika's Best.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
Okay, so here we are at Wrigley Field for the 7th inning stretch. That means I got 2 more innings. I got 2 complete innings here of tall tales before we head for Churchill Downs and the finish line. Next item on the card is called A Biologist versus the Woke. And this is something I picked up from the National Review. It's a little bit something about a gentleman named Colin Wright. W-R-I-G-H-T, and he is right. But the poor guy, I don't know much about his background, but he has killed his chances of ever being on the United States Supreme Court. And you'll see why in just a minute. He could never in a million years be on the Supreme Court. Here's how the column starts. Gender is not sex. And per my own polling, most conservatives don't quite know what the hell it is. The confusion necessarily complicates a fairly simple political issue. Perhaps this essay can help. Sex is a binary and unambiguously real human trait which goes well beyond the specific genitals that individuals have. The multiple essays on biologist Colin Wright's invaluable website, see what I mean? This guy could never pass muster for the Supreme Court. He's a biologist. The forbidden knowledge. He knows what a woman is.
Forbidden knowledge.
Yeah. So Colin Wright's invaluable website, Reality's Last Stand, break this down in much greater detail. But biological sex is first and foremost a matter of reproduction function. Gosh, how did I live so long and not understand this stuff, Jose? Anybody ever hear of the birds and the bees? Among, at the very least, all placental mammals that have placentas. Now, that would be, let's see, like a bull would be, no, a bull would not be a placental mammal. A cow would be a placental mammal. Yeah, I'm catching on, Jose. Yeah. A male is defined as a member of the sex that produces a large number of small motile gametes, sperm. A female is a member of the sex that produces a smaller number of larger and more individually valuable gametes, eggs. Boy, we're really breaking this down now, aren't we? Whole systems of the human body correspond to these roles. Barring some terrible accident or genetic abnormality, women have fallopian tubes, a uterus, and cervix, and ovaries, while men make do with testicles, an internal prostate, Cowper's glands, and so forth. Yeah, that internal prostate, yeah, it can be your undoing. Determining the biological sex of most human beings is one of the least challenging tasks imaginable. In addition to the reproduction function, the thing that defines sex, males and females are also different at the level of chromosomal ordering. All males and no non-intersex females have at least one Y chromosome. Some men have two Y chromosomes. Leads to some rather bad behavior. More simply, as you may well have noticed during married life or the wild years beforehand, the external organs of well over 99% of people line up perfectly with their reproductive system, chromosomal order, and whatever their sex appears to be. I noticed that. I probably noticed that in grade school. Yeah. Quote, "That's a girl," is apparently one of the first sentences I said as a wee toddling lad, and I was correct. Gender, which someone, as it were, Judith Butler once called the performativity of sex, is something else altogether. Crudely but accurately, a person's gender is simply the average of the sex-based roles and stereotypes they prefer or identify with. Sex-based roles they prefer or identify with. So if I showed up here wearing a skirt, a lipstick, a silly hat, etc., right? My gender, I guess I could pass off my gender as a woman, right? Sex, still a male, gender, female. Gender is simply the average of the sex-based roles and stereotypes that they prefer or identify with. A popular gender chart used in schools tracks from a bright pink female character on the left side over to a blue male warrior on the right. Actual pictures of Barbie and the G.I. Joe are often added to each extreme. I think G.I. Joe is supposed to be a male and Barbie's a female, right, Jose?
I hope so.
Well, that's this, so far this year, but there's, we got a long way to go to the end of the year. It may not be that way at the end of the year. Many of the more formalized scales we use in social sciences aren't much better. The idea underlying all this is that how someone, quote, scores across the secondary traits that we associate with sex. For example, liking boys' clothes or the color blue constitutes a distinct personal characteristic that is as important as sex itself. So you take two humans, one who really likes the color blue and the other really likes the color pink, and isolate them on a desert island for a couple years, and when they're finally rescued, the pink will have given birth to a baby, right? Yeah, because she's pink. In this context, an entirely female tomboy who prefers men's button-down Oxfords and contact sports to pretty dresses and tees might, and this is no mere hypothetical, be told she is really a boy. Were there any tomboys where you grew up, Jose?
A couple of them, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think, every class got a couple of tomboys. And the only problem I had with tomboys is some of them were better baseball players than the guys were. You choose up sides, and there'd always be 3 or 4 guys that I always kind of felt bad about because they'd always get chosen last. But, at one time, when we choose up sides to play softball, and one of the tomboys would get chosen like 4th or 5th. Talk about equal outcomes. Okay. The tomboy will be told she is really a boy, a heterosexual male who greatly enjoys the company of women, but who has personality traits that are traditionally female and stereotypically male, might identify as non-binary. In this sense, there are an infinite number of genders because there are an infinite number of individual personalities. There are 2 major practical problems with the idea of gender as distinct things separate from sex. First, the results of anonymous survey questions designed by myself and others indicate that most citizens are deeply skeptical of the entire concept, viewing it as essentially nonsensical. Can you imagine this guy sitting before the Judiciary Committee on his confirmation hearing? Yeah, I'm a biologist. Yeah, I know the difference between a man and a woman. And all this stuff that keeps people from answering that question is basically nonsense. My recent public and anonymous ask of the question, do some women have penises, which drew 3,051 votes and 55 reposts from online accounts across the political spectrum, produced the results. 1.8% agree. 1.8% of the women surveyed said yes, women have penises. 98.2% disagree. Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know how it could have been so close, Jose.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
They must have agreed to agree on that one. Some kind of a conspiracy. Someone cooked the books. Much more seriously, a very large and recent survey from Pew Research found considerable levels of skepticism toward gender ideology, even among committed minority Democrats, with 41% of Hispanic Democrats and 55% of African American Democrats saying that a person's gender is determined by their sex at birth. Less surprisingly, 80% of Republicans felt the same way. Well, of course. More importantly, even accepting the existence of gender would not change the reality of biological sex, a point that leftists themselves used to make before they temporarily gained the upper hand in this debate. As we saw during U of Pennsylvania's Leah Thomas's recent first place showing at the Women's National Swimming Championships, the fact that a 6'4" male seriously identifies as a woman does not at all change the fact that this person is a 6'4" biological male, or change any of the factors that make it a best practice for the boys and girls to swim in different heats. This guy, man, he just, whoa. Notably, the existence of the vanishingly rare medical exceptions to the sex, not gender binary, does not alter this point at all. The real transgender question is not whether some tiny number of people with, say, mosaic syndrome exist, who obviously must be treated humanely and as fellow citizens? The answer is sure. Rather, it's whether a person with a fully standard biological male can become a woman in every sense of that term by saying that he is one. To some extent, the answer there, in every sense, obviously has to be no. And obviously, logical compromise presents itself here. Gender is essentially feeling about internal personal identity, which inevitably winds up interacting with real-world norms of social courtesy. Among adults, of course, we shouldn't be reading Judith Butler to 8-year-olds. People should be free to dress however they want, modify their bodies given a doctor's consent, and change their names almost at will. And while we don't need federal laws mandating this, I would encourage polite citizens to use their peers' preferred new names. Boy, this guy, really tolerant, huh? I personally find myself exactly as tolerant of the occasional younger friend's insistence that she is a non-binary girl boss as I am about older buddies' claims about the Rig Vedas or the back to infallibility of Popes Benedict and Francis. But with the back-to-back infallibility of Popes Benedict and Francis. But with all that said, sex remains at the deepest possible level of logic. It is obviously and facially absurd to let males compete in varsity track meets with females and shower with them because the males say they too are now females. For the protection of women and indeed of young males in the Me Too era, a second component of any compromise on sex has to be the reaffirmation of the existence of safe one-sex spaces. The best way to do this would be simply to remove potentially confusing gender language from documents such as institutional charters and simply clarify whether the entity in question serves males or females or both. So much common sense. And the fact that it's so much common sense means this guy's going to get canceled, he's going to get run out of town on a rail, and everyone who tries to embrace that kind of common sense would be branded with a title, "You're as crazy as that guy Colin Wright was."
Can't we just retort with trust the science?
No, that won't work, Jose.
Not this context.
Not that one. Okay, let's head for Wrigley Field, and we'll come back with the Fifth Circuit versus trannies.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagatna location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
So here we are, Churchill Downs and Louisville, Kentucky, 6 furlongs. I crossed the finish line, and another perfect day here at Tall Tales has come to its conclusion. And I'm going to stay on the Colin Wright path here for a while. trying to insert a little common sense into the knowledge of people about what gender is. And although Colin probably couldn't make it to the United States Supreme Court because he's a biologist and would be able to tell the members of the Judiciary Committee of the United States Senate what a woman is, he could possibly make it to the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit is the appellate court that handles appeals from Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. And I've got a column here, and actually not a column, it's just a report from an outfit called Conservative Advocacy. Breaking news. And here's the headline: Court upholds boys and girls school bathrooms as constitutional. I was standing up when I read that, and I had to sit down. What kind of constitution are these guys reading down there in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama? Here it goes. A federal appeals court ruled that public restrooms are based, a federal appeals court ruled that public restrooms that are based on sex do not violate Title IX or the Constitution. The decision has repercussions for the transgender community. The court's decision could have far-reaching consequences, especially in Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. The case involved a transgender student who was denied access to the boys' bathroom at a public school. In an en banc ruling, the court stated that the U.S. has a long history of segregating public spaces based on sex. This does not violate either the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause or Title IX's prohibition on sex-based discrimination. In support of the ruling, Judge Barbara Lagoa stated that school bathrooms that are based on biological sex are constitutional. 4 of the court's judges, who were appointed by Democrats, of course, did not agree with her. According to the school's policy, which also includes transgender individuals, bathroom use should be based on biological sex. The court ruled that transgender students are included in the classification of individuals who are considered to be biological females or biological males. According to the ruling, about 16 of the 40,000 students in the district identify as transgender. The authorities were alerted to the use of the boys' bathroom by 2 other students. They told Adams to either use the girls' restroom or the gender-neutral one. Not good enough for him. The court noted that Adams was born with a female's anatomy, and the school had attempted to accommodate the needs of the transgender community. 3 judges from the court disagreed with the majority opinion, and one of them claimed that sex and gender were established differently. The proceeding is a summary of an article that originally appeared in the Washington Examiner. So there you have it. A court actually held that having boys' bathrooms and girls' bathrooms is not a denial of equal protection of the laws. I don't know what the world is coming to, Jose. Yeah. Okay, moving on right along here on the card. Next item on the card is the Archdiocese versus the Unborn. But I notice I got somebody waiting in the green room here. Let me see who it is. It's another Joe, off topic. A.G. Moylan and Bell's Law. Okay, another Joe. I'll accommodate you here before I go to the next item on the card. Tell me about Bell's Law and A.G. Moylan.
Hey, Bob, I just wanted to ask, how long does it take for
AG Boylan, they wanted to dissolve the injunction on Public Law 20-134.
According to the paper today, he said he'd be ready to file his papers in about 30 days. So he files a motion at the district court, and in order a motion is filed and opposition is filed, he files a rebuttal. In order for the motion to actually come on for hearing, would probably take about, I'd say, 5 weeks. After oral argument is heard, judges occasionally rule from the bench, but very seldom. So we expect Frances Gatewood to take it under advisement. She would study the papers submitted by the lawyers. She'd do her own research. Her law clerk would do some research. She would sit down and write up an opinion, and the opinion would be released. I would say that couldn't come any sooner than 3 months after oral argument. Probably between 3 to 6 months after oral argument. Can you wait another, Joe?
I'm sorry, apologies.
Can you wait?
3 to 6 months?
Yeah.
Well, we have to. We'll see what happens. Okay, Bob, thanks.
You're welcome, another Joe. Yeah, I guess what I could do is get all dressed up and go down there someday, and may it please the court, Judge Gatewood, I've got a guy that's named another Joe. He can't wait this long. Could you decide this right away? Well, I don't know. Maybe she would. Okay, next item on the card, Archdiocese versus the Unborn. And I'm looking at the Mass schedule for January 8th of this year. And the first item on the schedule is the Masses for the Dulce Nombre de Maria Cathedral Basilica, right? And there's the Saturday vigils and Sunday 6 a.m., 7:30, 9:30 a.m., which is the one I'm most familiar with. That was the Bishop's Mass. And I spent 54 Sundays carrying a sign outside that Mass once upon a time.
I was there for 52.
Nice round number, Jose. And then there is a special Mass here at 2 p.m. It's called a Mass of Thanksgiving. As part of inauguration of Governor Lourdes Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, it's a Mass of Thanksgiving. So we've got a pro-abortionist. We've got someone who is openly homosexual, who demonstrated his affection for his homosexual partner during the inauguration ceremony, and we're having a Mass of Thanksgiving. We're so thankful that these two were elected. Is that?
It is a most confusing message.
It is. It is. Confusing. It's beyond confusing. Yeah. So what is the message that we take from this then? If we are anti-abortion, we should go to the Mass and go to confession. And it's just hard to figure out what is really going on with the Catholic Church.
Especially in light of recent events of a bill that was vetoed.
Yeah.
And a promise to veto anything that resembles pro-life.
Yeah. Well, then Jungle Wash sheds a little light on that. And we have been saying I've been saying on the show that when it comes to excommunication for advocating abortion, it's a matter of late sentientiae excommunication. In other words, a bishop doesn't need to wave his hand or a priest sign papers or anything like that. If you do it, you are excommunicated immediately, and you may be readmitted to the community of the Eucharist, by going to confession, confessing, and doing penance. But Tim lays it out a little differently, so I'm going to get into that. I've got somebody here in the green room. Let me accommodate this call before I go into Jungle Watch again. It's none other than Mary Lou. Okay, Mary Lou, huh? Oh, hello, Mary Lou. Goodbye, show. Let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Crossings continues to overwhelm border towns. President Biden spent 4 hours at the southern border Sunday, his first visit there since taking office. Fox's Mark Meredith has more from El Paso, Texas.
The president started his tour at the Bridge of the Americas, El Paso's busiest port of entry. The White House says it is spending more money through the Infrastructure Act to beef up El Paso's border facilities, specifically about $600 million going to that port alone. Cameras were also there as the president got an up-close look at the U.S.-Mexico border, seeing along with some of the members of the congressional delegation along with him what these Border Patrol agents are dealing with when it comes to keeping migrants from trying to cross over into the United States.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott met with President Biden on the tarmac shortly after he landed and gave the president a letter that listed improvements for border security. President Biden is now in Mexico for the two-day North America Summit. Former president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, denying that he encouraged his supporters to storm Congress, the Supreme Court, and presidential palace Sunday. Around 300 arrests were made. President Lula da Silva says the protesters and their financial backers must be punished. California Republican Kevin McCarthy elected House Speaker following 15 rounds of voting and several days of negotiations. Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, one of the last GOP holdouts, tells Fox News Live that he has no problem with Alabama Congressman Mike Rogers after their heated argument on the House floor.
In a late-night moment of high drama, people can have moments of frustration, but Mike Rogers and I have a 6-year productive working relationship. We're going to work together wonderfully going forward, and I don't think there should be any punishment or reprisal just because he had an animated moment.
The House is expected to vote on a rules package Monday. America is listening to Fox News.
Jason in the House, the Jason Chaffetz podcast. There is always someone doing something stupid somewhere. Dive deeper than the headlines and the party lines as I take on American life, politics, and entertainment. Join me, Jason Chaffetz, every Wednesday as I shed light on the news and make some predictions along the way. You never know who will drop in. Subscribe now on foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts.
Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
Missing Massachusetts mom Anna Walsh's husband has been arrested and charged with misleading a police investigation. Fox 25 Boston's Drew Carides has more.
Just one day after police said they were wrapping up their search efforts near the Walsh family property, investigators descended on the home for a third straight day, this time going inside the couple's house and scouring the yard. Missing mother Anna Walsh and her husband Brian's 3 boys between the ages of 2 and 6 are now in state custody. Their father in police custody. The Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, which is taking the lead on the investigation, investigation is not saying exactly how Brian Walsh allegedly misled authorities. Police say he reported his wife Anna missing this past Wednesday, 3 days after she was last seen at the couple's Cohasset home in the early morning hours of New Year's Day.
Walsh is expected to appear in court Monday. State lawmakers in Illinois voting to give themselves a pay increase Sunday night. Fox 32 Chicago's Dane Placco reporting.
Despite criticism from some Republicans, state senators approved pay raises for lawmakers, the governor, and top state officials by a vote of 30-21. Legislators will see their pay jump by 17% to $85,000 a year. That's on top of a 2% pay hike last year. The governor's salary will go up $15,000 to $205,000 a year. Former Republican gubernatorial candidate Darren Bailey said it's simply not deserved. But State Senator L.G. Sims, who sponsored the pay raise bill, said it's needed to get the best people to serve.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is expected to sign the bill into law Monday. Prince Harry revealing several details from his upcoming memoir, Spare, in a 60 Minutes interview Sunday night. Among them, he doesn't speak to his brother Prince William or his father King Charles. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
The County of Los Angeles Department of Animal Care and Control makes today's Dean's List for granting a little girl permission to own her own unicorn. In a Facebook post, a spokesperson for the Animal Care Control Unit explained that a little girl named Madeline had asked them if she found a unicorn one day, if she could keep it in her backyard. The statement read, "It's always rewarding to hear from young people who thoughtfully consider the requirements of providing a loving home to animals." But the response also came with a list of conditions. The unicorn must be given regular access to sunlight, moonbeams, and rainbows, fed watermelon at least once a week, and polished at least once a month. The agency's director signed the official license and sent Madeline a stuffed unicorn while she continues her search for a real one. Janice Dean, Fox News.